Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Interstate Mets Report. This is episode 4. My name is Nelson, aka the Amish Country Mets fan, along with my co host, Chris at CPNY Sports. How's it going today, Chris?
Doing well, doing well. We got some baseball back in action today. Can't wait. I needed a little bit of a break from the Mets, but I'm happy they're back, and we'll see what the second half brings us.
For sure. Been a nice little break. Before we get into the topics for the day, obviously, we got our little plugs to do. So please, if you're watching, go ahead and follow me at Amish Country Met on Twitter. I hate that my name is two different things, but Twitter has a thing about long usernames. So it's at Amish Country Mets fan on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and of course here on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed yet to the channel, please do that. And also my co-host, subscribe to his channel at CPNY Sports. If you're watching on mine, be sure afterwards switch over, go subscribe to his, or vice versa, whichever way you're doing it. Please subscribe to both channels. We appreciate all the support. Also, follow Chris on Twitter and Instagram at CPNY Sports. We're always streaming on Twitter as well, so you can always find us there. And then please give us a follow at Interstate Mets. It's our Twitter account for the show. We're going to be posting more there. I know we've been lagging a little bit on that, but we'll be working on that as well.
Yep.
And if you're watching, hit us with that thumbs up, drop a comment, and like I said before, subscribe to both channels. So, without further ado, we will get into our topics for the day. We're going to kick it off with a little.
Oh, Nelson got kicked. Nelson got kicked, but I will pick it right back up for him until he joins back in. We are going to be talking about the Mets Dodgers preview, and we got Nelson coming back up here on the stream. Put yourself back up here, Nelson.
I'm trying. Am I back?
You
Am I
dropped
good?
off. You dropped off.
What
I was ready to
happened?
go in.
Man, I almost thought you were going to have to do it solo. I have no idea what happened there. I apologize. Hey, it's the internet. We always have some issues.
Things happen.
It's
Things
all
happen.
good. But as I think I heard Chris starting to say, we're first thing we're going to talk about is a little Mets Dodgers series preview here. Series kicks off tonight. This is an important series for our Mets, man. We lost those 2 games to San Diego to end the first half. Ended up 7 games out of the wild card. If we're gonna make any noise and have any chance at the playoffs, we got to do it now. We got to win this series. I mean, we don't necessarily need sweeps, but we got to win series, and it starts tonight. We got Julio Urias on the mound for the Dodgers against Justin Verlander. Urias is 6-5 with a 4.76 ERA. Tomorrow it's Tony Gonsolin versus Kodai Senga. And Sunday's Bobby Miller against Max Scherzer. By the way, about tonight's game, it is an Apple TV game. So if you weren't aware of that, prepare yourself. If you don't have Apple TV, you might have to listen on the radio or find some other way to get the action. So what do you think about this series going into the series? You have any expectations? What are your thoughts there, Chris?
Well, I mean, first two series are going to be ever so important in terms of getting the Mets in a state of mind to get back in the race here. 7 games back with the wild card is not insurmountable. We went over all this in last episode on Tuesday, pretty much stating the importance of the first 2 weeks, really, but definitely the first two series post All-Star break, and it starts in LA. And the Dodgers started off slow. They gained some momentum. They're 51-38, tied for that NL West lead over there. I just was checking the standings a little bit ago. Obviously, you
Mm-hmm.
look at the stats for their pitchers. They're not great. Julio Urias is having, maybe somewhat of a down year compared to what he could definitely be producing and has produced before. But albeit, somehow, some way, the struggling players will always find their way to get back on track against the Mets, and I don't want that to happen this series, especially with the Dodgers pitching. Tony Gonsolin, also no slouch, not having a tremendous year compared to that one breakout year that he had, but still a guy that you expect to go out there and give you 5, 6, 1 to 2 run games. Bobby Miller, I haven't really been paying attention to him, but I know he's a young guy that they're really high on over there in LA. Listen, we got our studs going too. I'm not sure if you know who's pitching game 2, but we got Verlander and Scherzer on the mound in this series. And listen, we'll get into our player grades later, but like these guys, we brought them in here for a reason. We're saying it all season, man. Something has to click, and if it's not going to click in this Dodgers series, I'm afraid it's not going to click at all for the rest of the series. And in relation to the Mets Dodgers, you saying they need to win the series. There's also a multitude of reports, conflicting reports, I might add, about what the Mets are planning to do with this trade deadline. And it all interrelates with one another in terms of last episode, us talking about that this is really the Mets' chance, the players' chance to convince the front office to not sell off the pieces to go in for this season. So we'll see. I know it's a little bit ridiculous with the way the first half has gone for us to come up here and say that the Mets still have somewhat of a chance to, be playoff contenders. But in reality, that's definitely the case. And it does start, against the Dodgers, and we'll see what happens. Is my confidence high with this series? No, not at all. But if we win 2 of 3, who knows? Maybe they make a little run, take advantage of the White Sox team next series, and then we'll see what happens. The White Sox also probably looking to be sellers. We'll see what happens with them. But this is the Mets' chance. Like you said, this is the Mets' chance.
Yeah, and like you said, it's very conflicting reports as to what the Mets are doing. I've seen anything from their might be light buyers, so they're going to be like shooting for something big, to they're going to be selling, to their it's all over the place. And it comes down to the fact that really nobody knows, because I don't think the Mets know until they figure out where they're going to be here in the next week or so. So these games are highly important in that sense. It's going to make or break whether we decide to go for it, or we decide to sell off pieces, or we decide to just stand pat because we don't know where we're at and we're just like 5 games out and like in that kind of no man's land. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. We do. I think you asked who we had pitching, and it's Kodai Senga tomorrow. Max Scherzer is supposed to pitch Sunday. I read Mike Puma said something about they have to see how he responds to his bullpen. I don't know if he's tweaked something or what's going on. That would be an issue. So who knows? Hopefully he's all right, because
it's always something.
It is always something, but we certainly can't afford injury to one of our big starters right now. Another news, Jose Quintana, his rehab is over. He is being activated. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how he does. The numbers down during his rehab weren't great, but you could argue he was just trying to work on stuff and get himself healthy and get that pitch count up. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it'll be an interesting series. Hopefully we can win. Like I said, just win the series. That's all that matters at this point. We got a comment here from Stevie Mack. Stevie Mack, welcome, Steve. I like how all these random people are saying we should trade for Arenado. Listen, right now the Twitter GMs are going crazy. In my opinion, it's best to ignore most of it. A lot of them don't know what the heck they're talking about. I'm just going to be real. Yes, the Cardinals may very well trade Arenado, but some of the packages I'm seeing, this doesn't make sense. And I don't know that he makes sense for the Mets, but we're going to keep hearing all this garbage. And that actually transitions very well to our next topic, which is Shohei Ohtani. Is he on the market? Listen, again, this is another one. Conflicting reports. You get some reports say Artie Moreno has no desire to trade him, no matter what position the team is in. There's other reports that say he is available. There's reports that say the Yankees want him desperately. There's reports that say every team in baseball, everybody would be. anybody that's contending would be interested in this guy. Obviously, it's whether or not you're willing to trade your farm for the dude. Because let's face it, no matter what you think, it's going to take a lot to trade for the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts? Do you really? I'll give you mine first. I honestly don't think he's going anywhere. I really don't. I think Moreno is stubborn. I think he's going to keep him. I don't think he's worried about maximizing the value. I think he's worried about keeping people in the seats for the rest of the season and trying to sell as many tickets as possible. And he might actually think Ohtani wants to stay. I don't know. This is the problem with Ohtani, is that we really don't know what he's. We have no insight to where his mind is at and what he wants to do next season. So I don't know. If I'm the Mets, I wouldn't even entertain it. We're just not in a position to give up that many players from the farm for a non-guarantee that he's going to stay. I don't know that he wants to stay on the East Coast. Martino, some would argue they don't know. Martino doesn't know what he's talking about, but he just stated recently he doesn't think that the Mets have a real shot at him in the offseason. So, or the Yankees for that matter. He doesn't think Ohtani's going to want to come to the East Coast. So if that's the case, it would be really stupid to trade for the guy. So that's my take on it. What's yours?
Yeah, honestly, I think that the consensus right now amongst, the reporters and honestly the fans from the start is that, if he does go anywhere, whether it's at the trade deadline or the next season, it's going to be to the Dodgers, unfortunately. That's where all the signs are pointing to right now. But then again, nobody has any insight, like you just said. But in terms of just pulling the trigger on a trade at the deadline for one singular guy who will take 3 to 4 top prospects at a minimum. Um, Not a smart idea. Not a smart idea, and goes against everything that Cohen's been building ever since he took over this team and the farm. Um, do the Mets have the prospects to give up to make it happen? Yeah, sure they do. But if the front office decides to delve into a philosophy that they're going to trade farm products for MLB ready talent, superstars, there's a better way to go about it than getting a 1 for 4, 1 for 5 type deal. Regardless of how good Ohtani is, regardless if he's a two-way player, that doesn't matter to me. You don't do that. Me, what I'm doing is I'm waiting to see if I can sign in free agency. Everybody will have a fair chance. We all know that. You don't get the extra half season of negotiating rights to try to strike up a long-term deal. You don't even know if he's going to even want to talk about a long-term deal during the season anyways. That's something that would have to be talked about and agreed upon before the trade actually happens. If there's any sort of tampering rules against that, I don't know. I don't know what the process is of talking about a possible extension before a trade happens, but it's not smart. I saw, we've been seeing a lot of Twitter GMs, a lot of even on SNY, all these reporters making up mock trades for Ohtani for the Mets, and they're including Parada, Jet Williams. You're talking about Alex Ramirez. They're talking about Francisco Alvarez as a part of that
I was going to
deal.
say, I don't
And I'm
think
just
any
like,
trade
listen,
starts without Alvarez in it.
none, zero. Brett Beatty, I'm still willing to entertain, but Alvarez, I'm not. We're not getting rid of Alvarez. This is not happening, right? It becomes a conversation of whether you want to get rid of Parada, who might become an everyday catcher at the MLB level when you get Francisco Alvarez to DH or they platoon whenever he gets up. Is he expendable, Parada? Yeah, he probably is as well, just because you have Francisco Alvarez, who's shown that he's able to play a high level of defense at the MLB level. But it's all a matter of moving pieces. In the grand scheme of things, it's not smart. You buy into the hype, I get it. But Shohei Ohtani, as the Mets are currently constructed, I should say, doesn't make this a world team, a World Series contender. He just doesn't. Not by himself, that is. And I firmly believe that. So I'm saying hold off on the trade talks, hold off on this Francisco Alvarez talks. I know that people just like to ride the wave of what the news is going on right now, and they're throwing everybody willy nilly. Let's go get Ohtani. Let's go get Ohtani. Let's hold the brakes. Let's pump the brakes on that. And I just don't think it'd be a smart investment at this point in time.
Yeah, totally agree. listen, if we were in a different position, if we were fighting for a divisions race, if we were firmly in the wild card race, you could argue, okay, let's go try to get maybe an Ohtani or even a Soto. I've heard his name out there,
Yeah.
and see if we can win a World Series. But right now, like you said, I don't think Ohtani, as great as he is going to push us to World Series contender. Ohtani may get us to where we're in the hunt, but we still miss out on the playoffs by a game or two. And if that's the case, then you not only gave up your farm for not even making the playoffs, but if he walks, then you set yourself back for years.
You're
Like
the
not
laughing stock of Twitter, and now all of
oh
them.
oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, definitely that. But the fact that you're gonna set your organization back years,
Yeah.
not 1 year, not 2 years. It's gonna be like 3, 4, 5 years that you're setting yourself back if he walks and you traded your future for him. So I think it's a horrible idea. I think the Twitter GMs need to knock it off. If he goes somewhere else, he goes somewhere else. So be it. But you got to just take your chance in the offseason. If he's willing to come east, then we'll find out. If he's not, then it is what it is. He'll go. I hear Seattle's a big lately. That's been like the big rumor. He might go to Seattle. Listen, of all the options, other than him staying with the Angels, that one to me, if he doesn't come to the Mets, is the best case scenario. He can be out there in Seattle. We don't deal with them much. We'll play them once a year. We'll be fine. Obviously, I wouldn't want to see him come to if he does choose to come east. I wouldn't want to see him come to the Yankees because then we'd have to hear that, and again, we'd be the laughing stock. I don't think that's going to happen either, though. But
yeah, to your point on that, Nelson. To your point on that, I do. I don't. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Moreno is not going to let him walk this offseason, or not this offseason, this trade deadline. I think he's stubborn enough to do that. We've seen his stubbornness on multitude of occasions, and I wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's proven he doesn't really think in terms of baseball and the best for his team. He's just a stubborn dude. He's a stubborn old man. I just don't. I see him just riding it out, and that might not be the smartest thing. And if I were an Angels fan, that would make me lose my mind. But it is what it is. So I mean, I think that pretty much unless you got something else to say, that kind of wraps up the Ohtani talk.
Yeah, and we're not. Yeah, we were here talking about Ohtani, but I would be interested to see what sort of deal Soto gets. And listen, if we can put Soto in Queens, I'd be all for it too.
That'd be a great consolation prize.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really what the Mets should pivot toward as their plan B, regardless of how he's been doing. I know he's been picking it up with the Padres. Obviously, he struggled last season, but he's a generational talent. I think with the whole Ohtani talk, Soto really does get overshadowed because, listen, at the end of the day, that's a great fill-in for an outfield that's going to be needing a fill-in, right? And one of the positions in the corner outfielders. So if you can get him alongside Nemo and whoever's going to be playing right field, I'm just presuming it's Marte. I'll take Soto any day, but I'm not going to talk about Soto here. This is not Soto talk. But I just want to throw that in.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We'll definitely. I mean, hopefully, if we're winning and we get ourselves in a position where we are going to be buyers, we'll talk a little more about who we might buy other than Ohtani. Maybe Soto is an option. Maybe the Padres do fall out of it and decide it's time to part ways. So we'll see. We'll get to all that. But coming up, and actually we have a little more time than expected because we breezed through those first two topics. Not a lot to touch on there. So we'll do our grades. Maybe we'll talk about it a little more than originally. I thought we would just kind of breeze through and give them a grade and move on. But we have a little more time to talk about it here. So let's get to our half-season Mets player grades. And first up is going to be Mr. Brandon Nimmo. So I'll go ahead. I'll name the player. You tell me the grade, and then I'll give you my grade, and we'll move on from there. What do you got for Brandon Nimmo?
Brandon Nimmo. Listen, the way he was going to start off the season was going to be a for sure A. I think he's still in the A range. I'll give him a B plus, just because I think that he's been fairly consistent in terms of, in comparison to the rest of the Mets roster. He's slowed down just a little bit. He's added a little bit of a, pop to his game. The defense is still there. Coming off of a nice little contract that he got himself for 8 years with the Mets. I'll give him a B plus. I think that's a fair grade. I think that grade has a potential to go back up to the A that he was earning early on in the season, pending the second half, and I fully expect that from him. His approach needs to change a little bit. Obviously, we're talking about the increased power, playing a factor in terms of his pitch selection, his pitch eye from the leadoff spot, stuff that we were used to seeing last year. But listen, I'm gonna give him a B plus, and in the grand scheme of things, I really can't complain overall with how his first half went.
I hate that you pretty much said exactly what I would say. Yeah, I'm spot on. Originally, I would have, if he would have kept up as hot as he was, obviously he's a for sure A plus even, but he's fell off a little bit. Definitely, I will also give him a B plus. Like you said, the approach, man. I want the approach to be more of a be my leadoff guy. I don't need you being the power guy. Just get on base a little more, draw some more walks, make the pitchers work. That's what worked for us last season. We need to get back to that. And it's so frustrating because I know these guys can do it, but they just haven't been doing it. So, yeah, Mr. Nimmo gets a B plus, and hopefully that improves. So, moving on. Number 2. Mr. Tommy Pham. What is your grade for Tommy?
I'm giving him an A, man. I'm giving Tommy Pham an A because he is, if you look at all my content, whether I did it with Nelson or not, I started off this season being the biggest Tommy Pham pessimist there probably ever was. And I know that there's still a few out there just because you can't backtrack on what you said early on in the season. But listen, this guy has arguably, maybe outside of Lindor, been one of the hottest Mets players over the past month and a half. And just the timeliness of when the team needed someone to step up the most. And he was the one to do it when everything was pointing towards him continuing being a platoon player with Mark Hanna. Really, really impressed me. So if not an A, maybe an A minus. But in terms of the timeliness and the clutchness of what he provided the Mets lineup, that was really needing something. With guys like Lindor still struggling at the time, and then Pete Alonso on the downswing, Jeff McNeil also, who we'll get into. I'm going to give Tommy Pham an A minus. Now, realistically, do the numbers align with an A minus grade? No, probably a little bit more of a B plus range as well. Especially with some of his defensive blunders. He's had some really high level defensive plays, really high IQ defensive plays, but a little bit of times I'm kind of questioning what he's doing out there. But his hitting has just been absolutely phenomenal. I literally watch a Tommy Pham at bat right now, and I'm expecting him to hit the ball hard. I don't know if it's gonna be a base hit, but I'm expecting him to hit the ball hard. I'm talking about 100, 102 off the bat, wherever it lands up. That's all you can really ask for these guys right now, especially the guys that are struggling. Just hit the ball hard somewhere, see where it goes. I'm giving him an A, maybe a little bit of a higher side grade, but give my guy the
A. To your point about the hitting the ball hard, I'm pretty sure I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but he was for a while the team leader in exit velocity. I think that's still the case. He does hit the ball hard when he gets up there. Listen, I'm a little bit of a harsher judge. I don't know that anybody on this team deserves an A, to be honest, just for the downside of the whole team in general. But I will give him a solid, again, a B plus. He's done more than I could have expected. Like you said, we were all harping on him pretty bad early in the season. I think if you're being honest, most of us and most people watching or not watching, whoever, they wanted this guy off the team. A lot of people didn't want him signed to begin with. So if you're being honest, that's definitely the case. And he's shut us up. He's proven us wrong. He's done a great job. I love that play that he made in the outfield where he deked the runner and gunned the guy out at third. That was awesome.
Kim, right?
Yeah. And he just he looks solid, man. He's definitely been one of our more productive bats, and can't ask for any more. I don't honestly cannot ask for any more. And if we do sell, I think he will get us a solid piece or two back in a trade. So good on Tommy. Yeah, B plus for me on Tommy. So we'll move on next. Oh, my favorite Met, Mr. Francisco Lindor. Your grade on Francisco. This should be interesting.
With the way the season was going earlier, I was really going to give him somewhere in the C range, but right now, with the way that he's been going, I just kind of was looking up some stats here before we got on here because I was really interested. I want to give my actually like competitive grade for Francisco Lindor. Listen, he's got all of his metrics are on the rise the last 2.5 weeks. I think his batting average that everyone wants to point toward to is back up to 239, which albeit can improve. Everyone understands that. But listen, he's got a 3.5 WAR, 118 OPS plus. His OPS, his regular OPS is almost back to 800, 798 right now. 13 stolen bases, 19 home runs as a shortstop, providing great defense. Obviously, he has some lapses at shortstop, but all in all, his defense is A1. I've said that all season long. He really provides a spark on the defensive side when everything's clicking for him on both sides. Obviously, the talk from him on the left-handed side was him struggling on the left-handed side compared to the right-handed side. That's come along in the last 2 weeks as well. So I'm going to go ahead and give him, just because of the duration of when he's gotten hot, I'll give him a B plus right now. I really want to make it an A minus, A maybe moving forward, because honestly, at this point, we're going to need him to be that type of ball player. But I think it's fair to grade him as a B plus for this season for the first half collectively, taking into account the early struggles and then the hot streak to end it. But the consistency there in between on the defensive side of the ball is important when things weren't going so well in the box. So I think B plus is going to be my grade for Francisco Lindor.
Solid. And this may come as a shock to some, but I'm going to go lower than that. I'm just going to give him a B. Just because it did take him a while to get that average up a little bit. Some of the numbers were lagging for a little while. Overall, right now, I mean, you could definitely argue B plus, but I'm just gonna give him a B. I love the guy, but I'm not gonna be like just a homer and just because he's my favorite Met, just give him a higher grade. That's not me. I've been honest about Francisco Lindor all season. Some people didn't like what I had to say about him, but it is what it is. I've always believed in him. I always thought he was going to turn it around, and he started to do that, and I'm glad, and I hope he continues. And you said it all right. I mean, his numbers are phenomenal outside of that batting average. The batting average is obviously a little low. It is what it is. I'm not a huge batting average guy. Like, yeah, I'd rather you not hit 220, but I'm not going to be like, oh, you have to hit 300 or else you suck. Like, that's not me. So as long as your other numbers are there, I can be okay with 250, 260, and I think he can easily get there. So yeah, I'll give Francisco a B, and I think that's going to be trending up. I think once we do this at the end of the season, we go back and grade them after the end of the season. I think he can work himself up to an A. He's just a solid player, man. That's all I can say about him.
Yep, I agree.
So let's move along to Mr. Peter Alonso. What's your grade for
comment here as well for JNY Sports? B or B plus is fair. Interested to see how he performs in the second half. I agree. I gave him a B plus, the benefit of the doubt, just because he's been consistent. In terms of the defense, I like his head's always in the game. That's what I respect about Francisco Lindor. Like, he can be struggling, but he'll be engaged in the dugout. You will never ever see him look disinterested at times. And I don't want to single anybody else out, but like Marte, we said it multiple times about Marte. But Francisco Lindor, if a pitcher's struggling, he's struggling at the plate. Let's say he just struck out in a key spot. If the pitcher's struggling next inning, guess who's the first one that's going to call timeout and go talk to the guy if it's not the catcher? It's going to be Francisco Lindor. And that's like underrated leadership qualities. And everybody likes to say, I don't know who says Francisco Lindor is not a leader, but That's certainly not the case for
I
what I see
hate
on the
that
field.
argument
So,
because you're
yeah,
not paying
so
attention if you make that argument.
yeah, it's a little thing. So shout out JNY Sports and Stevie Mac both for dropping some comments in. Moving forward, Pete Alonso, like you just said, my grade for Pete Alonso. This is an interesting one. Um, oh man, Pete. There's some varying variables for Pete Alonso this season. Um, Listen, I'm gonna give Pete. I like Pete Alonso, and maybe this is my bias talking, but I'm gonna give him a B minus. I'm gonna give Pete a B minus. He is not having the season at all that we would expect in terms of consistency of getting on base. His OBP is 310. He's hitting 211 right now. That's not the Pete Alonso I know. That's not the Pete Alonso you know, Nelson. That's not the Pete Alonso we all know. Pete Alonso I know is a guy who will hit you 50 plus bombs, which he's on track for. So that's out the way. We got the bombs, right? 26 bombs, however many RBIs. He's got those numbers. His OPS is dropped. It's still at 807. OPS plus is on par with Francisco Lindor's, 119, 118 range, somewhere around there. He's been struggling big time for the last month or so, maybe even a little bit longer. I'm not going to give him the excuse of the injury whatsoever. That's not what I do. He's got enough time to figure it out thus far. He just looks really, really off. He's pulling off the ball. He refuses to hit the ball the opposite way, and his timing's all screwed up. He started the season off hot, which salvaged his grade for me as a B minus. If you go lower than that, I will not be mad because based off of what we all expected out of P. Alonso, his contract coming up, if he wants to get paid, he's going to have to perform a hell of a lot better than what we're seeing right now. So I understand a lower grade. His defense could use some work, but honestly, with the amount of ragging people amount of ragging that people have done on P. Alonso's defense ever since he got called up to the bigs, I think he's improved steadily. Could we see some more improvements? Do we see mental lapses out of him at first base? We do, but he also makes some good highlight plays. And we'll see. I value defense a lot. I'm not saying Pete Alonso is this star-studded defensive gold glove caliber guy at first base. But his power numbers are still there. His RBIs are still there. Those are still have some value. His WAR is 1.7, not great. Yeah, B minus. I'll give him a B minus, but I guess I'm interested to hear what you have to say about his grade.
Listen, it seems like we're pretty much on par. You're a little slightly nicer than I am. I'm gonna give him a C plus. Right there, could teeter either way. The difference, if you're gonna say, all right, what's the difference between Lindor and Alonso? Well, at this point, Lindor's hitting almost 240. Alonso's hitting 210. While not like I said, I'm not huge on batting average. That's almost 30 points different. That is a little bit of a decent clip. And the defense, Lindor's a stud on the defensive end. Alonso isn't a butcher necessarily, but if you look at the metrics, they haven't been great. He has made some nice plays, but he does also make some boneheaded plays. Mm-hmm. So I gotta knock him on that. And the other big one, Lindor's been pretty clutch. Alonso, except for a couple moments, he's kind of shrunk when in big spots. So I gotta ding him a little bit for that too. So that's why he gets a C plus. I think he has room to improve. I think he's better than what he's shown. I don't know what the issue is. Like you said, he's not hitting the ball the other way, which if he looks back in his career, when he's at his hottest is when he's driving the ball to all fields. You don't have to pull everything, bro. You don't have to hit a home run every time. Take what they give you. If they're giving you a hit to the opposite field, take it. It helps. But when you're flailing at pitches and you are striking out on balls that are nowhere near the strike zone, that ain't doing us any good, brother. So you got to do a little bit better for me, Pete. So you get a C plus from me, dog.
And I agree. And this Dodgers series, I mean, we're gonna need these guys to come out of the gate swinging, right? and there's no time for an extended slump after the All-Star break. McNeil, we'll get into here shortly. McNeil, Lindor, Pete, all those guys. I need to see something. And Lindor, you talk about his July metrics for his career have been great. Let's see it. I want to see it. And then Pete, the same thing. That home run derby. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's not the home run derby is not indicative of what he's going to do in the second half. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying like we can't afford to have this Pete Alonso for much longer. And I gave him the benefit of the doubt with the home runs and the RBIs and the power metrics. His OPS is still respectable, but listen, like you said, what he's doing right now ain't cutting it. So we're gonna need something a little bit more out of Pete Alonso.
I will be a little fair. Last point here to him on the home run derby. I felt like his pitcher was trying to get him out, then help him get hit. Oh, what? This guy was throwing the balls outside. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, come on now.
That was frustrating. Get the Giles back in there, man.
That was so horrible. But anyways, we move on to the next. We'll start trying to wrap this up here. Yo, Jeff McNeil. This one's gonna be fun. What's your grade on Jeff McNeil?
D for Jeff McNeil. Absolutely disappointing coming off the batting title. Doesn't even crack 100 OPS plus. He's hitting 250. I mean, whatever. 250 is 250. OPS is in the 600s, not serviceable. Defense is a crapshoot as well, especially when he's in the outfield. He's made a lot of blunders there. I'm not sure I want to see him be the duo up the middle with Francisco Lindor for the next couple of years. I think that the Mets can do a little bit better at second base, whatever the answer is. I'm talking about defensively strictly. Do I think that this Jeff McNeil is going to be the same Jeff McNeil for the next couple of years of his contract? I don't think so. Talking about a second season now that he's kind of struggled, but overall, the sample size of his career, I still like what I see out of him. But for this season, the first half of the season, giving him a D.
Again, spot on. I'm giving him a D, like you said, D for disappointing. He's just he's been bad, man. There's no really redeeming qualities about anything he's done this year. And listen, at this point, I'm getting frustrated with just not only his performance at the plate, but the fact that you can tell his performance at the plate is getting to his defense. In the past, this dude has been a pretty good defender. You stick him at second, stick him in the outfield, he does the job. This year, the mental lapses, easy plays. I witnessed one in person. The boy looks scared to field the ball. I've never seen something like I saw fear in his eyes. I was looking right at him, dead right in front of me. It looked like he was scared. He shuffled his feet. I'm talking about the play in Pittsburgh where he just completely botched the ball. I mean, I don't know, man. There's something going on with this guy. His head's not in the game. I'm tired of, and listen, some people like to see the passion, and sure, I like it, but I'm tired of every time he makes an out, he's screaming and throwing things, and it's like, calm down, bro. Like, just chill. I just, it's one thing every once in a while, but every time he's just like freaking out. Just be better, bro. Be better. That's all I got to say.
The mental aspect of the game, a lot of people overlook. I mean, I don't know Jeff McNeil personally. I don't think many people do outside of the Mets players, his teammates, etc. But yeah, I mean, when you do that, it just sort of becomes a question from an outsider perspective of if you're mentally tough enough to get out of whatever funk you're in. And like you said, usually a really solid utility guy, whether in the outfield or the infield, which is one of his greatest assets, minus that bat that he has, getting on base and hitting for a higher average. His defense, defensive versatility was one of his greatest assets, but totally not the same Jeff McNeil this season compared to last season. And we'll see what happens in the second half. I'm rooting for him. I really do like Jeff McNeil when he's at the top of his game. I think he's one of the best hitters Not the best hitter in terms of, power or whatnot, but best contact hitter, I should say, and finding the holes. Him and I mean, it's hard to beat Arias out in Miami, but an Arias type guy. And they don't come, those kind of slap hitters that can just guide the ball wherever they want to, don't come around often, I should say, in the MLB anymore. So it'd be great to see him get back on that sort of track, and we'll see what happens with Jeff McNeil, but I can't give him anything higher than a D so far.
Agreed. Let's move on. Next. Oh boy. Starling Marte. Go ahead. I'm not even gonna say much on this. Go ahead.
I don't have to say much as well. I think I'm going to give him a similar grade to McNeil. The only upside that he has over McNeil is his stolen bases. He's got 23 on the season. Everything else has been lacking with Starling Marte. Again, not the same Marte from 2022. His head mentally just looks like he's disinterested in the dugout sometimes. Not sure what's going on there. Defensive lapses out in right field. The approach, also a guy who's just swinging at everything. We talked about that with Pete. A lot of swing and misses outside of the zone with Starling Marte. He's in the 600s for OPS as well. I think he's got a 79 OPS plus. He's also batting 250, but really, what does that really mean for us? On base percentage also not where it should be. Yeah, I don't know. Starling Marte can't get much more of a grade than a D. Maybe a D plus. If I gave Jeff McNeil D, I'll give a fringe D plus for Starling Marte because of stolen bases that have been sort of what the Mets needed in terms of just production and getting moving runners over to scoring position. I think the stolen base and the running has been something the Mets have lacked for a long time. It's something that I'd like to see Brandon Nimmo do more, but he just refuses to do so, whether it's injury related or whatnot. But at least Marte has tried time and time again to steal bases, which is good to see. But he needs to get on base to steal bases, and it just hasn't been happening at a high rate. So D plus for Marte is what I'll give him.
I mean, people are probably going to get tired of us agreeing, but it is what it is. I feel like this is why we work well together. We kind of think similarly about this team. D plus is spot on, man. I like you said, the base running has been solid enough with the steals. That gives them a little bit of an edge. Other than that, it's pretty much
Not much.
a lot of the same we said about McNeil. Defensive lapses. At times, like you said, he just looks disinterested. I don't know what it is, man. Last year he was a catalyst for us at the top of the lineup. This year it's not the case, and it's a big difference. You can see it in the team. It's a huge difference. We saw it when he got hurt last year. That affected the team major in September, and it's kind of carried on. He's on the field, but he's not the same Starling Marte, and I don't know if he just got old and we're stuck with what he is now or what's going on. But yeah, can't do much more than a D plus because he hasn't shown us any better.
Yeah, and as a caveat to what you said for the grades, listen, we're agreeing on a lot of stuff, but Nelson and I have not. We did not give our grades prior to this. We're doing this.
No,
I'm doing
we
this cold
didn't.
turkey. I have not done much research. We don't have any scripts that we base these shows off of. I don't think many people realize that. So we haven't even given our grades to each other before this episode. So it's good to see us agreeing and having a similar mindset because, like I said, we do talk offline, on Twitter and whatnot. And we watch these games, and I feel like anybody who does watch the games as much as we do would have similar opinions too, because it's just cold hard facts in front of our faces every single day. So it's good to see us agreeing on stuff, but just want to throw that little caveat out there for
Yeah,
people
no,
watching.
we definitely we talk about certain things, but we definitely did not discuss our grades firsthand. So this is all off the cuff. So next, Mr. Francisco Alvarez. What's your grade for Francisco?
This is a hard grade for me, and I don't know. This is just a shot in the dark for me because I really haven't thought about it. Doesn't come as easy to me to grade Francisco Alvarez this season than it is the other guys. Um, I also haven't taken a look at his stats in a while. I know he started off really. I mean, he started off slow, then he got really hot, caught the hot streak, had that multitude of home runs in a short amount of time. Defense, obviously, he's got a couple throwing errors, but I do like his aggressiveness in terms of throwing the baseball around the diamond. He's got a couple back picks to his name so far. He's done a great job working with the starting rotation. Um, a lot of I know I hate to like critique pro athletes like techniques, but he's still got a little bit of a long of a swing, and that'll come naturally because he is a power hitter. And he really needs to get his whole body with his stature into the baseball to put it over the fence. He really uses the lower half, which is good. I like to see that. Um, but does have some zone deficiencies, I will say, in terms of the pitchers attacking certain parts of the zone. Like Pete, for example, hates the high ball, will swing right through it. Alvarez, sort of similar. So Francisco Alvarez,
Spit
I
it
give him a
out.
B. I give him a
B.
B. I give him a B. I give Francisco Alvarez a B.
And before I get to my grade, we will JNY Sports. He gives an A, given his better than average defense and framing.
I can see that.
Might be a
I
little
can see
high
that.
in my opinion, but I could see that. And
Yeah,
then
sure.
my guy AP, what up AP? Lindor probably has to have the highest grade apart from Robinson. He was up there. Um, CP gave him a B plus, I think it was. I gave him a B. I was borderline. I wanted to give him the B plus, but just the fact that it took a while for him to get really going kept me at a B. But yeah, he's definitely been one of our better players. That's for sure. As far as Francisco Alvarez, man, I'm gonna give a B plus. I'm gonna go higher than you for once.
Okay.
Um,
I like it.
I love his pitch framing. Like JNY said, he steals a lot of strikes, man. He steals a lot of strikes. The fact that even though he's got a little bit of a language barrier, the dude works awesome with these pitchers. Um, he's got a great arm. Yeah, he does make a little bit of blunders with the throwing errors sometimes, but I like the aggressiveness, like you said. And his Batman, for being a rookie who doesn't have as many at bats as some of these other catchers, his power numbers are higher than most everybody. 17 homers. He's got what? I forget how many RBIs he's got. Man, where is it? 35 RBIs. That's respectable. On base percentage is a little low, only 295. Wish he'd work some more walks maybe in there. But dude, his power is insane. Um, I love the kid. I love his energy. I love the fact that he's always out there being aggressive, smiling, laughing. I just love the guy. So he gets a B plus from me, dude. That and I think
Yeah.
he's only going to improve.
That's an underrated feature that you mentioned. His energy is infectious, and I do like his passion that he brings. And I'll take power wherever I can get it with you when you're the New York Mets. Outside of Lindor and Pete, you're not really getting much power anywhere else. Francisco Alvarez adding another power bat to the lineup on pace for roughly 35 in your rookie season is pretty damn impressive. So I like the grade. I'm gonna stay at the B, but yeah, I think that's only going to go up. And if not this year, definitely for years to come. And like we said with the Ohtani talk, he's definitely off limits for any trade for anybody, even Ohtani. So,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
not trading Francisco Alvarez. I hang up at that name. Anybody else is fair game, to be
yeah.
honest, depending on what the actual trade is. But Alvarez, I'm keeping, man.
Yep.
We'll wrap this up. We got a couple more. We'll get to our next guy, Brett Beatty. This should be an interesting one. Brett Beatty, what's your grade on Brett?
I haven't taken a look at stats. I really haven't, but just like a general feel for me watching, games, and it's a little bit harder to judge Brett Beatty just because of the sort of platoon that he got thrown into when he first started, albeit now he's, Eduardo Escobar is gone. Shout out to Eduardo Escobar, great guy. wish him nothing but the best in LA. But obviously, we all knew Brett Beatty was supposed to be an everyday type player once he got called up. Underperforming a little bit from what I've seen. Like I said, I don't know the stats. I've been watching his defense. It's been high and low. It's been a little bit of a mixed bag there, but he's a rookie. We can't really take these grades for these rookies too seriously just because of the sample size of their careers. I don't want to dwindle their career down just to a first half start of their season and their rookie season. So I'm cautious about what I say in terms of these rookie guys, and not being too harsh on them. But with that being said, just I guess non-biasly, like without looking at anything, just for feel for it, I'll give him a C minus.
Um, yeah, it's tough to judge, and I think maybe I'm judging on a curve here because of the fact that he's a rookie and that I think Buck has mishandled him a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him a C. Um, he's definitely had some lapses there in the field. The average is only at like 244, and that's average, like I said, is whatever, but he's only got 4 homers, 21 RBIs. Like we said, he's platooning. He's not batting as much as some of these guys, but yeah, a C. I can't give him more than that. I think he will improve. I think given more playing time, given more reps, he's going to get better. But right now,
Yeah.
for me, he's a C. And we will move on to number 9. It is Max Scherzer. What's your grade for Max?
Um, Max. Oh, Max. Uh, I'm going C again. I'm going C. I can't give him much more than a C. He's got 4.31 ERA. He's got 8 wins. Whoop-de-doo. Doesn't show up in the crucial games, in these pivotal games. We just saw it in his last start. We needed a good outing out of him. Got a stinker against the Padres. I'm sorry, man. I mean, I know the age is a factor. I know he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, as is the guy that we're going to be talking about next. But a grade's a grade, and I'm not being biased in any of them. And he just hasn't performed up to expectations ever since he got smacked around in the Padres wild card series last season, the postseason. So I'm giving him a C for the first half.
Yeah, spot on. Totally agree. Just doesn't show up in big spots. That ERA is not where you want it to be. It's in the fours. Yeah, he's won, like you said, he's won 8 games, but great. So what? Like, I
Yeah,
need you to be better, and he just hasn't been. I think most Mets fans are pretty frustrated with him. So yeah, he gets to see. It is what it is.
it is what it is.
Um,
Exactly.
and last but certainly not least, the supposed to be co-ace of the squad, um, Justin Verlander.
Ah. I mean, stats wise, I think he's a little bit better than Scherzer by a slim margin, but also being a co-ace, the hype that we got, from signing the reigning Cy Young Award winner. I'm gonna give him a worse grade than Scherzer, to be honest with you. I think I'm gonna give him. I want to say D plus, but I'll be nice and go C minus because this is a guy that we replaced DeGrom with. And regardless of what DeGrom's situation out in Texas is, I mean, we all know I was hurting when DeGrom didn't sign back with the Mets. Obviously, in hindsight, team benefits from that 100%, right? But just the hype that was supposed to be Justin Verlander replacing DeGrom, who's been a Met his whole career, choosing the Mets after he just won a title out in Houston. Just the overall hype that was surrounding him, and just how he's come onto the scene. Obviously, that injury plagued him to start off with. Do I expect more and better things out of Justin Verlander in the second half? I think he does come around. I'm not as convinced as with Max Scherzer as I am Justin Verlander, but I will give Justin Verlander a C minus.
I'm going to give him the same grade as Max. You get a C. Um, the numbers, yeah, Max has a few more wins, but I think their WAR is almost identical. Verlander has the lower ERA, not by anything crazy, but it's in the threes. Um, Similar issues. They just haven't shown up necessarily in big spots. Just not performing to the level that you would expect out of your aces. So he gets a C. So to wrap things up, couple guys that I think we can't. Just gonna throw a quick thing out there on Vogie. You get an F.
Yep, F,
That's
100%.
it.
That's it. That's it. F.
Mark Canna, you get a D, D minus. And listen, we can't not bring up Kodai Senga.
Yeah.
Kodai Senga gets a solid B from me. I'd love the walks to improve, but man, he's been our best starter to me. So,
I give him
and
a
he was
B
an
plus just
all-star.
because he has been. I give
Yeah,
Kodai a B plus just because no one really expected him to be the best pitcher with the guys that we named up top, in Verlander and Scherzer. But yeah, man, you got to do better if you're the other guys. But Kodai Senga, for that reason, I'm giving a B plus.
yeah, I could certainly see that. But I'll stick with my B. Before we wrap things up, we talked about this already, but Timothy left a comment: should the Mets pass on Otani and trade for Soto? I think Chris agrees with me. We shouldn't be trading for either one at the moment. But if we're gonna lose out on Otani, we both said Soto's definitely a good consolation prize, and hopefully we can work something out if that ends up being the case. What you want to touch on that real quick?
Well, we're talking about in terms of a free agency standpoint. Do I think that the Padres re-sign Juan Soto? I don't think that's even possible. I don't even know how that's plausible for them. Maybe they'll make something work, but I don't even think with the state of their organization, they're going to be willing to re-sign him. They're just going to let him walk. They're not going to pay him however much he's going to want to get paid because he's going to be up there in the 400s as well. Whether you think he deserves that or not, I think he's going to get to 400 plus. So he definitely was on that trajectory before he hit the Padres, the Nationals. So we're talking about free agency standpoints here. No, I'm not trading for Ohtani at the deadline. No, really, with the way the Mets are going right now, I'm not trading for Juan Soto at the deadline either, just because of the prospects. This doesn't make any sense with the current state of the Mets. Um, but yeah, Juan Soto, I'll take him in Queens any day on a free agent deal if we're not getting Ohtani. I'll take him in left field, right field, wherever you want to put him. I'm taking him out there, and I honestly think the Mets have a better shot at signing Juan Soto anyways. You look at all of his interviews, he's given kudos to New York, whether it be
He
the
loves New
Mets or
York,
the
yeah.
Yankees. He says he loves the New York environment. So I think the Mets have a fair shot of actually getting Juan Soto, but I just wouldn't be comfortable with doing it this season, especially in a trade type of scenario. So that's what I think on the topic.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, Soto actually does. We know he loves New York, and we know he loves hitting in City Field. His numbers in City Field are outrageous. So it'd be great if we could get him, but we'll see. That's a topic for later on down the road. So we're gonna get out of here, wrap this up. Thank you everybody that joined us. Stevie Mac, JPNY, my guy AP, Timothy there at the end. Real quick before we go, please follow me at Amish Country Met on Twitter, at Amish Country Mets Fan on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And please subscribe to my YouTube at Amish Country Mets Fan. If you're watching on Chris's, jump on over to mine. Vice versa. If you're jumping on mine, jump on over to Chris's at CPNY Sports. It's right here, right below us. Also on Twitter and Instagram, same handle at CPNY Sports. And also give us a follow on Twitter at Interstate Mets. That's our new Twitter page. We'll be posting more stuff on there. And yeah, I think that's it. Anything for you to add before we get out of here?
No, I just appreciate everyone supporting JNY Sports, saying keep it up, keep it going, guys. Appreciate the support, Timothy, AP, Stevie Mac, some regular listeners there, especially Stevie Mac, 23. Definitely appreciate the support. And we'll see. We'll see how the second half kicks off tonight. We got the Dodgers coming up. It's going to be a crucial time for the Mets with the trade deadline fastly approaching. And listen, I'm still rooting for these guys to pull it around. I want to see them make that wild card spot. I want to see them make a run at it. But I'm keeping my expectations tamed, is what I'll say. So, but other than that, I appreciate everyone tuning in, and that's it for me. Let's go Mets.
Same. Just keeping my expectations same. We'll see where things go. Hopefully, we do get on a little run here, and we got good things to talk about coming up, and the trade deadline will be exciting. As always, we'll see you guys next Tuesday, 5 p.m. If you didn't catch it live, you can always catch the replays on either of our YouTubes or watch them on both. We'd appreciate it. So thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Let's go Mets.
Thank you for watching the Interstate Mets Report, streaming